How is it possible that the Dallas Mavericks, having all the talent that they have, play like dog shit at times? The answer is very simple. Jason Kidd needs to go. The Dallas Mavericks have been praying for the day that Jason Kidd gets fired and replaced with a competent head coach that will maximize Luka Doncic for years now. It seems like Jason Kidd's tenure is being held on by a string, where one Western Conference appearance excuses 2 seasons of mediocrity. But how can we trust a head coach that is just watching like the rest of us? That is not an appropriate answer and shows a serious lack of accountability as the supposed leader of the team. I came across a channel called Awful Coaching, and it's not surprising at all to see that Jason Kidd has multiple videos made about him. Just look at this. It perfectly describes how Dallas Mavericks fans feel about their head coach.
This is coaching. This is disgusting. The Mavericks have no chance with Jason Kidd. Jaden Hardy should be up the line with his feet set in a defensive stance so I can recover. You can't be going towards the ball on the kickout pass or you're not recovering. Terrible coaching.
I don't see a world where Mavs fans are not completely frustrated with their coaching situation. Constant miscommunication, losing to teams they should beat, and a heavy reliance on ISO possessions from their stars are dramatically hindering the team. And it's not like they don't have the personnel or tools to be better. It all boils down to coaching, and hearing certain comments Jason Kidd makes definitely doesn't help. This may be a bit old, but just look at what Jason Kidd said about the Celtics after they beat the Mavs.
It's not about it's about tenure for them. You can see that with the ball movement. They're not worried about who's shooting it. A lot of times the person who is shooting it is why.
It's all about ball movement for them. Yeah, no kidding. Why do you try to instill that in your own team instead of admiring another one? You are the head coach after all. Despite this, I still believe that Luka, Kyrie, and all their new trade deadline acquisitions can make a deep playoff run. But neither I nor the Dallas Mavericks fans trust Jason Kidd's ability to adapt in the clutch. If you ever want to watch a game and see how basketball is not supposed to be played, watch a Jason Kidd-led Dallas Mavericks game, and I promise you'll want to drink bleach. It seems like great NBA coaches are a rare commodity. It's like a bell curve. You got the best of the best, the Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, and Phil Jacksons, for example, coaches that no matter the roster, will always coach at a high level and make the best of their situations. Then you got a whole lot of middle-tier coaches, the ones who don't do much or at least can't elevate a bad team. And then you have the Doc Rivers and Jason Kidds of the league, coaches who are professional excuse makers and, unlike the middle-tier coaches, have competent and talented rosters to compete but actually hold the team back. While Jason Kidd has been able to adapt before, mainly in the Mavs vs. Suns series, which all props to Coach Kidd, he definitely outcoached Monty Williams, he hasn't been able to have that be a consistent part of his skill set, often making questionable rotations and not taking full responsibility for his coaching actions that negatively affect the team. And the fans are sick of it. They want him replaced, but what will it take to get Jason Kidd fired? I think a first-round exit with a healthy team would definitely get Jason Kidd fired. You can't have Luka for 3 seasons and not make it to the finals without getting fired. If you didn't already know, Mark Cuban sold a part of the team to Las Vegas Sands in hoping to legalize gambling in Texas and build the new Dallas Mavericks arena with an in-house casino resort. If that's the case, they should definitely keep Jason Kidd, because gambling is exactly how I would describe his coaching style. Now, I know I started on a negative note, so let's look at the positive. The Dallas Mavericks are still an elite team with arguably the best player in the league and the best ball handler in NBA history. And they finally managed to fill the hole of lack of big men when they acquired Daniel Gafford and drafted Derek Lively. Not to mention that they have a good amount of defensive talent in PJ Washington, and even Luka has stepped up his defense this season and no one is talking about it. Talent is absolutely not an issue with this team. What they lack is proper leadership and structure. No team can be perfect on a nightly basis, but if you just take a look at an average Mavericks game, you'll for sure see a constant miscommunication and either a lack of ball movement or an ineffective defensive system. With all the talent that they have and all their role players, let alone having Luka and Kyrie on their team, they possess all the tools and potential to win a championship. And even with their poor play and lack of elite coaching, they are still considered dark horse contenders to most people, including myself. Whether you're a Mavericks fan or just love NBA basketball in general, we can all agree that Luka winning a championship would be a historic moment for the league and for his career. Not a lot of players, aside from maybe Damian Lillard, deserve a proper chance to win a title quite like Luka Doncic. He's constantly overlooked for MVP, even though he averages 34 points a game, and even with Kyrie on the team, he will always be the best player. And speaking of Kyrie, I am just as shocked as anyone to see that he's actually committed to this team and not be a drama queen like he has in the past. There hasn't been a single issue on or off the court from Kyrie Irving, except his health. In regards to the massive improvement to the roster after the trade deadline, it is believed that they are just floor trades, not ceiling trades, meaning the recent additions don't change much of the expected playoff outcome of the Dallas Mavericks. I disagree. I think this is the most help that Luka has had throughout his career. But at the end of the day, Luka can only do so much. He will always be elite and easily control the pace of the game, but if there is a lack of structure, discipline, or the ability to adapt that is 100% the responsibility of the coach, they will never win a championship, even if Luka gets another star if they keep Jason Kidd as their head coach. The NBA is becoming less top-heavy every season since the era of the Golden State Warriors. The perfect example of that are the Denver Nuggets, because Jokic couldn't win it all without his team being healthy. That's kinda where the Dallas Mavericks stand in terms of winning a championship. Luka, similarly to Jokic, is only as strong as his weakest link, meaning health and coaching. And what's crazy is that the Mavericks have seen what starting roster actually wins game. There's a Mavericks roster that had an offensive rating of 133.3 and a defensive rating of 112 per 100 possessions, and that starting five is Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Josh Green, PJ Washington, and Derek Lively. Both Josh Green and PJ Washington are good enough threats as spot-up shooters and off the dribble, which will force defenses to decide who to defend, which gives Luka and Kyrie more wiggle room to make the right pass or have space to get easy buckets all game long. With this starting five, they would still have the depth both in the center and guard positions to keep the lead that the starting five creates. But for that to happen, Jason Kidd needs to coach this team based on their strengths and stop experimenting. This isn't science class. This is the NBA, and you're trying to win a championship. Too often, Jason Kidd is playing small when the Mavs are getting killed on the glass or playing big when they're losing control over the perimeter. And this is completely inexcusable when you have such a complete team. And of course, you can make the argument that this team needs more time to gel. After all, they are trade deadline acquisitions, and while that's true, it's also true that Luka needs a ring to stay in Dallas. And if he doesn't like the ceiling that the Dallas Mavericks offer him, no one will blame him if he leaves and wins elsewhere like back when LeBron left Cleveland. The Mavericks roster may not have years of playing together like other teams, but the sample size is big enough to see what's worked, and with this team, when it works, it really works, and they play effortlessly efficient basketball. Luckily, the Mavs managed to avoid the play-in tournament and secured the 5th seed, meaning that they are set up for a first-round matchup against the Clippers, giving us a much-needed rematch from the bubble playoffs. I don't believe in Jason Kidd's coaching in the playoffs, but I do believe in Luka, Kyrie, and the roster to be hungry enough to elevate their game, especially the stars. It's just sad to say that such a promising star has to rely on himself to go deep in the playoffs, even if he has all the talent to do so. Regardless, I'm super excited to see Luka and Kyrie play in their first playoff series together. I want to know what you think. Can the Mavericks make it to the finals with Jason Kidd as their coach? Let me know, and check out my other 2 videos on the Dallas Mavericks to see a different perspective.